So, good morning, everybody. Thank you for inviting me to be here today. So I'll start off with danse. Trista Pewapisconias, Nitsika Sun, Nehiawa Squeo, Little Pine First Nation of Tania. I'm the Director of Indigenous Relations for Co-operatives First. And as mentioned in my bio, I support Indigenous communities, individuals, and organizations in creating opportunities through collaboration, cooperation, utilizing the co-op model. So Indigenous people have been stewards of this land for thousands of years, cultivating rich agricultural heritage that is as diverse as the ecosystem in which they live. From the three sisters of corn, beans, squash, to traditional fisheries, hunting practices, Indigenous farming practices are not merely food production methods, they're ways of life. The ways that embody respect, interconnection, and sustainability. It's impossible to talk about Indigenous agriculture and cooperatives without acknowledging the oppressive policies that have been placed on Indigenous people to hinder the maintenance, the growth, and the excelling in food production. These policies, these Canadian policies have imposed several restrictions on Indigenous farming policy, including the Peasant Farm Policy. So from 1889 to 1897, this policy limited Indigenous farming on the prairies by restricting the tools that Indigenous farmers could use, the amount they could grow, and what they could sell. Indigenous people had to keep their farms very small and can only use basic equipment. So any kind of mechanical instruments, such as tractors, were prohibited. Another policy was the permit system. So this system limited First Nations farmers to subsistence farming levels and actually restricted the interactions with non-Indigenous people. The system it was extended to all First Nations in 1951, but the enforcement gradually faded. Land tenure laws. So these laws limit Indigenous participation in agriculture, actually making it more cost effective in leasing the Indigenous land out to non-Indigenous farmers, as well as the Indian Act. This Act of 1876 and its amendments prohibited First Nations homesteading and restricted the sale of agricultural products. I am not standing here today to make anybody feel guilty or feel pity on Indigenous farmers. I'm just stating the facts and laying the groundwork on how we are going to continue and evolve. So these policies placed many, many restrictions and really did limit the amount that Indigenous people could thrive in this country. So, however, these policies did not stop or assimilate or discourage our people from feeding our communities. That is our livelihood. It just meant that we had to find innovative yet traditional methods of working together collaboratively. So for the remainder of this talk, I will give 3 examples of Indigenous farming agricultural co-ops. One is Canadian, here in Saskatchewan, and the other 2 are American that I've actually met and have grown to know quite well. And speaking with our my American counterparts, many of the policies actually were implemented in the U.S. as well. So, the first I'm going to talk about is actually Cooperatives First, our very first cooperative we incorporated. So we're a fairly new organization, about 8 years old. We've worked on over 120 co-ops, and this was our very first project and successful incorporation. So the food forest is made up of 3 generations of women from 2 Indigenous families. So the grandmothers, the mothers, and the daughters, to create a space for healing and reconciliation on the prairies. Located beside Little Lake Manitou, the food forest is a pristine 50-acre parcel of land with an abundance of natural foods, herbs, and medicines on the prairies. So the Learning Center was established in an old church in Viscount and hosts homeschool classes, gardening workshops, events, as well as a living area that could temporarily house families in distress. The Food First and Learning Center is the outcome of these special places connected to a strong vision of how these spaces can work together. Maggie Bluewaters, her daughter and granddaughter, as well as the other 3 generations from a Montreal Lake First Nations family, are the founding members, and together they make up what Bluewaters call a powerful pack of women. Between them, the founding members have background in education, healthcare, social work, as well as knowledge of traditional ceremonies. And Bluewaters called this cooperative a fusion of all of our experiences. So before Maggie Bluewaters acquired the food forest land from the rural municipality, a process that actually took 7 years, the land had been used as a dumping ground and a party place for local inhabitants. So truckloads of garbage had to be hauled away to be restored to its original state. However, the land has their sweetgrass and sage, rose hips, juneberries, gooseberries, pin cherries, choke cherries, wild raspberries. So it is a haven of food, and it is a literal food forest. During the 1960s to the 1980s, thousands of First Nations, Métis, and Indigenous children were taken away from their homes, families, languages, and cultures, and systematically adopted into non-Indigenous homes. Maggie Bluewaters was one of these children. So the actual creation of the Food Forest and Learning Center was a piece of reconciliation for Maggie. She needed to reconcile within herself and with the community in which she was placed. And as Maggie states, she says, "I'm a product of that assimilation program. I lost my identity, even my name, my language, and my culture." So creating this organization has been central to Bluewaters' healing process as she sought to reconnect with her culture, her language, and her traditional ways, despite the unpleasant memories of her early days in the rural area. She wanted to make friends with Saskatchewan again. I had spoken to Maggie a few months back, and I asked her how the progress is going since we met with her years ago. And she has actually expanded into some programs in the local school. She said, due to these conditions, food insecurity is an issue in all cultures, in all backgrounds, including the local school. So her and the co-op have included a school gardening program and hot lunch program for the kids in the nearest town and First Station. She said it doesn't matter, that it really matters about bringing people together, working and feeding the children. The next example of a cooperative that I will talk about is the Ohi Lagu Among the Cornstalks Cooperative. So the name Ohi Lagu actually translates to Among the Cornstalks in Oneida. So, which is a fitting title for their co-op focusing on cultivating their traditional Tuscarora white corn. This nonprofit agricultural cooperative consists of around 15 families who come together each year, sharing labor, resources, to grow the ancestral varieties of the corn in which they harvest, distribute equitably among the members, and donate to the local community. The co-op serves a variety of Oneida families, bonding generations in which they work together, they plant, they tend, and harvest corn. This collaborative effort allowed them to produce significantly more corn than the individual plots could yield, transforming their relationship with the food and its source. Previously, many families struggled to harvest enough corn in their small backyard gardens, often facing challenges such as poor soil quality and wildlife threats. Farming together actually changed the amount and the yield that the co-op could actually grow. With the membership, they used to have their own small plots of land, realizing that they're not growing. After speaking to the elders, they were saying, but that's not how we did it before. It does not work. We need to grow and we need to work together. So they actually changed the way they do their plots to one family has one row, the next family has another, and so on and so on. So then that way they're all growing together and they're tending to each other. They're accountable to each other. So if they know somebody hasn't been there pulling their weight, they could kind of tap them on the shoulder, ask them if they need help. And if they do, then they can help them out. But knowing that everybody is pulling their weight and doing the best they can and enforcing that trust amongst its members. So this co-op has fostered a sense of community, responsibility, and revitalized the traditional agriculture practices by coming together. The Ohi Lagu model embodies the philosophy of mutual support, where communities can contribute their unique skills and strengths. Based on individual strengths, that is their role within the co-op. They all take their turns working within the fields. However, if there is one person who's great at public speaking, they go out and be the public relations. Somebody is good at the bookkeeping, that is their role within the co-op. But then they ensure that everybody has their role specific to their abilities and their gifts. So members share the corn based on hours work, with the structure of creating that sense of accountability and teamwork. So as they've grown, the co-op has tapped into the invaluable knowledge that the elder corn growers from other nations, they really do share their knowledge with other co-ops, and then that way everybody wins for this, allowing for the skill transfer and capacity building. One of the most critical aspects of maintaining the successful co-op is ensuring member engagement. So through lessons learned in the early days of the co-op, the Ohilaku established commitments for members to dedicate at least 50 hours per growing season. So by implementing this structure, families felt less overwhelmed, leading to increased participation and a substantial boost in corn production. Monthly meetings are often kicked off with a potluck meal to foster camaraderie and help reinforce the strong bonds formed through their shared work. This allows members to reflect that they are community members. They are family. They are friends first. Beyond the members of the co-op, they are a community. And these relationships need to be respected and celebrated. Maintaining mutual respect and harmony in the group is important for the group as it implements an onboarding process that they call under the wing. As the organization expands, they continue to make decisions by consensus and welcome new families each year with their Under the Wing program. So each new member is referred to by a current member and works in the cooperative for one full season. This is important because they want to maintain harmony and balance. They don't want to bring somebody in that's going to disrupt the way that they're working, and they want to ensure that they are a good fit within the members. At the end of the season, if the group agrees, that new family is allowed to stay as full members. And after one full year of being a member, then they can invite somebody else to join this Under the Wing program. So members of the Ohilaku co-op believe that the cooperative model has had a profound impact, a profoundly positive impact on their community. It actually transformed the land commission, the tribal land commission regarding land use. When they started, the co-op requested to lease some land, but the land commission insisted that the leasing process follow the standard bidding system, which began at $250 an acre for the trust land designated for agriculture. They clarified that their intention was actually not to sell the corn, but to grow it for their families and give back to the community. As a result of this advocacy, the Land Commission altered the rules, allowing any group of Oneida people who wish to cultivate traditional foods and create a cooperative free access to the agricultural lands, bypassing the lease bidding process altogether. This change has already begun to show positive results for the entire community. Okay, so the final example I have is called the Res Chicks Fresh Eggs Co-op. So this cooperative is a woman-owned and Native-owned cooperative in Pendleton, Oregon, or the Confederate Tribes of the Umatilla Indian Reservation. This cooperative came out of necessity. So the bare grocery shelves in Umatilla Indian Reservation during the early days of the COVID pandemic motivated 4 women to come together to work on projects to combat food insecurity. They were all the matriarchs. They had children. They needed to feed their children. So as those women, they prioritized raising livestock for production to solve the food availability program and to strengthen their food sovereignty. In April 2020, one of the members ordered 28 chicks online. None of them had a background in egg production, raising chickens, anything. Everything they learned through, Dr. Google, and learned how to, and their research taught them how to raise free-range chickens and process fresh eggs. As one of the members stated, we didn't realize we'd be that good at taking care of chickens because the mortality rate is actually quite high. However, by the end of the summer, the raised chicks ended up with 42 chickens that laid eggs. And so with this, they purchased all the necessary equipment to ensure the sanitary conditions and protections of the chickens. So with the flock of 42, it increased egg production beyond what the family needed. So with this excess, because they weren't certified, they just started giving it out, their eggs, to providing eggs to local businesses, the high school, the seniors, local seniors meal program, and then selling at a farmer's market and a grocery store. Locally, they were able to make connections to sell eggs and build their clientele through necessary word-of-mouth marketing. Production kept increasing, and the eggs just kept coming in and so by the spring of 2021, the raised chicks filed with the state of Oregon and received the proper license as an established business, as an established cooperative, had been totally certified by the USDA, so they are the #1 egg sellers in their area. So with these 3 examples, the Indigenous agriculture cooperatives represent an important blend of both tradition, community empowerment, and their sustainable farming practices, remembering how they did things and ensuring that the growth and the future of their people will use that balance. These people are addressing these pressing needs by taking charge of their food systems and promoting resilience and healing within their communities. As more cooperatives grow, they play a significant role in the broader movement for food sovereignty, sustainable development, benefiting everyone. So supporting these initiatives elevate Indigenous communities, enhancing our shared understanding of agriculture, culture, and sustainability. So thank you very much.